Hello guys, it's Masked Dragon Artist, and today I'll be showing you the full tutorial on how I make my dragon puppets. That includes head, ears, designing, forehead, all that. Yeah. Okay, so for materials, you're going to need a pencil, preferably a mechanical pencil, some kind of outline marker, I use a Sharpie, scissors, a thin detail pen and a white pen, masking tape, a glue gun with glue sticks. If you're a kid, make sure you have parental supervision when you're doing this. An eraser, a preferred media. I'm using alcohol markers, but you can use regular markers or Prismacolor pencils. Cardstock paper, not regular paper. Some kind of like beneath sheet for when you're coloring so you don't get it on your table. And a sketchbook. So what you want to do first is you want to sketch out your design. So just like the beginning of your dragon puppet, just so you know what you're going to make in the future and you're not going off of some random idea in your head. This is an optional step, but I do find it really helpful for when you're making puppets so you have a plan. Okay, so now you want to choose the colors for your dragon. I already picked them out beforehand, but you can choose different ones if you want to. Put your sheet underneath so the marker doesn't bleed through, and you can begin like just testing the colors on the side. And then you can start filling in on the design where you think you want the colors. So like as I'm doing here, you can see I always go in with the lightest color, which I didn't do here because it's just a rough sketch. So yeah, this is just me planning out the dragon. Now that you have the design in mind, you can go ahead and start grabbing a piece of cardstock and sketching out your dragon. So basically you just copy what you've already drawn, and yeah. If your dragon puppet doesn't look like this, or it looks a little bit different, that's totally fine too. I've been doing this for a good amount of time, almost a year now, so yeah. It takes a bunch of practice. This is like my 80th puppet, so just, practice makes perfect. If you don't get it the first time, try again. Now you're gonna want to go in with your thick Sharpie to just outline the basic shapes, but not the details. So just the part that should show when you cut it out. Then you want to go in with a thin Sharpie or a thin pen and create details. It's okay to add some that weren't already on the plan. Yeah. Now you just kind of erase all of the pencil marks, and you can go in and give touch-ups while you're doing this. So right here I kind of begin to color, but I realized that I didn't do the ear yet. But this is how I do my eyes. I do a light color, then I do a darker top color, and then I do a gray where I do the darker parts, so it looks more 3D. Okay, so now I just sketch out my ear. I try to fold the paper just to make the ear smaller, because the dragon isn't that big. But if you have a bigger dragon, feel free to make it bigger. I like to add floof on the outside of my ears, and yeah. And then I add the designs. And I go in with my thin Sharpie first, which is a mistake. And then I go in with my Sharpie to outline the bigger part. So yeah. I also understand this is a really long video, so you don't have to watch all of it. You can kind of just skip around to the parts you want to see. So yeah, that is that too. We finished both the ear and the base. I'm going to start with coloring. So I want to pick my lightest shade, and I'm going to go in really lightly by just flicking the alcohol brush to, color it in. And this is just so it can have like a fade and look, basically blend properly. And then I'm just going to go in with my detailed, like a darker color for details. Same with the nose and everything like that. I just go in with a light color and flick on top of it to give it more depth. Okay, here is where I tried another tip called feathering, or no, tip to tip, where I let one alcohol marker bleed into the other one to give it a more faded kind of look and color. So the darker color goes on the bottom, the lighter color goes on top, and you let the light color fade into the dark one. And then when you use the dark one, it'll have a tint of the lighter one, which will allow the colors to blend easier. So that's kind of how it can just blend better. Okay, so now I'm going to grab another piece of cardstock, and I'm going to tape the cardstock together evenly so that they're connected. For the ear, you can do the same if you use the whole piece of paper, but because I only used half, I'm just not going to worry about it because it just easily folds and it'll stay together. Okay, so now you can just begin cutting. I sped this part up because it was really slow, but because they're taped together, it'll give you the same piece on both sides. And yeah, this is a really easy step. If you're a smaller, like a little kid, I highly recommend having a parent help you do this, just so you don't cut yourself or use safety scissors. Okay, so when you want to start doing the ear, start from the part that isn't on the bent part. So the part that's not folded, just the open side, so that it stays together for as long as possible. And yeah. Here's me just studying how I want the puppet to look so I know how to make the base and stuff like that. And getting like a concept of what it'll look like. Okay, so now you're going to take the side that has not yet been Sharpied and you're going to outline it. Make sure it's facing the opposite direction as the first side you did so that the puppet won't be double-sided, if that makes sense. Okay, so now to add the small details that are already on the side, you can use the light. I use a light table, but you can also just use a window or a light, just so you can see where the spots or designs line up. So I split this part up real quick, but yeah, you just kind of use this to see the designs. Okay, so now you want to go ahead and you're going to grab your little paper again, and you're going to start coloring in the other side. I split this up because you already saw me do it on the first side, and yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make the base of the puppet. You're going to want to fold a piece of cardstock in half and then fold it again, but make sure that you're folding it on the already folded part. This is just so you can have an even base. Yeah. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to trace only 2 of your fingers and make it as long as your puppet is so that it fits. And then I made this a rectangular base, but you can always make it a triangular base, meaning that you would just have it close off on the paper. And this is me just testing the length of it to make sure it fits. And then you're going to want to make one more on the other side. I didn't have to measure for this one since I already had the measurements. And it's going to be a little bit shorter and a little bit smaller just to make sure that it fits for the bottom jaw. Okay, so now I'm just going to cut those out so that, you have both pieces of paper, and you'll see what I mean by how it's symmetrical now. So the puppet will be even itself, which will help you if you're adding a forehead. Now I'm going to cut out 2 strips of paper, long enough for the strip to go on the base, for both in between the top and bottom jaw so your hand can slip through. The bottom jaw should be a little bit shorter so it's not as thick, but still thick enough that your thumb can fit through. Okay, and while I'm waiting for the hot glue gun to heat up, I'm going to draw the bad side of my puppet. So I'm just making tentacles since this is technically a pirate themed puppet. So yeah. Not all puppets will have a bad side, but some of the ones that do, I usually just do either gore or some kind of tragic backstory that fits into the puppet. Yeah. Okay, so now that the hot glue gun is finished heating up, I'm going to take a break from the tentacles, and I'm going to measure the strips of paper and make sure that they line up and are long enough, and if not, just add an extension piece like I'm doing here. And then you're going to do the same for the bottom jaw, and then cut it where it reaches the point. And then I'm just going to add small amounts of glue in straight lines and not do the full thing at once so that it can sit properly and you don't have to brush it. I burnt myself there, so that's why my hand was in the corner. If you are a kid, have supervision while you're doing this because burns can hurt, or use tape and not hot glue. Okay, so now I'm going to do the bottom jaw part, which is just the exact same as the top jaw. And then what you're going to want to do once you have both those parts finished is you're going to want to cut a small flap of paper, which you'll see me do in a second. And this is just so the puppet is connected, but it's not going to fall apart as easily. So you're going to cut a flap here. You're going to put glue on one side and put it on the bottom jaw, and then you're going to put glue on top of that, and you're going to put it on the top jaw. And it'll just connect the pieces, so it's just a connection strip, which you can see here. Okay, for this side, I cut out the eye because it's going to be a mouth eye on this side. And here I'm just grabbing red colored pencils because that's the inside color I want for the mouth, and tracing the eye shape to basically just create a more three-dimensional eye. This also works for follow me eyes, which is a different thing. I messed this up, I think 4 times before I finally got it. So if you mess up, that's totally fine. Just feel free to redo it. It's a thing that happens when you're creating. Okay, so here I'm just cutting out part of the base to make sure that the eye fits. If you have a normal puppet without the 3D eye, you shouldn't have to worry about this part, and you can just skip ahead till the next part. Okay, so here I'm going to start connecting the puppet pieces together. So I just connect them on one side, And yeah. You just kind of place the puppet parts where you want them before you put them on the base. Once you've done that to both sides, as you can see here, I included the teeth and everything on there already. You can start to glue your puppet down. So this is just, you make sure you have enough space where the bottom jaw is visible, but where it hinges is hidden. So this is just so it looks more like movable when you're actually like, or more realistic when you're moving it, which you can see here. And then you just do the exact same for the other side. Once you've finished, your puppet jaw should be able to move, which you'll see in a second. So it should look like that, kind of, which is, yeah. And then here, I'm just tracing out the tentacles for my bad side. I used colored pencils for this because my markers in these colors have died. But you can use whatever you want for this part, or you don't even have to do this part. This is also a reminder that this puppet is my idea. You can take inspiration, but please do not copy this dragon exactly. So now I'm just kind of cutting out the tentacles, which, again, not hard. It's just being precise and kind of using the lines. Here I'm testing to see if they fit in the eye and how they look. So, yeah. Okay, so here I'm just coloring in the back side of the tentacles. This is because the tentacles will show on both sides because they are sticking out of the dragon. So I want it to be fully colored and not just a half done job. Okay, so now I'm just going to begin to fit the tentacles into the mouth, or the eye mouth thing with just hot glue and placement. So if you did this, it's up to you how you place them in, but this is how I did mine. And yeah. Okay, so this next step is I'm making the forehead. So what you want to do is you want to grab your puppet and you want to kind of just understand what it's supposed to look like. And then you'll trace the length and turn the puppet till you have how long it should be. So that's about the length of the puppet. And then I kind of just traced the puppet itself to get an idea of how wide the base should be. I added little flaps too, so that when you glue it down, it has more supports to flap. Yeah. I also bent the paper so that it was symmetrical on both sides. And if you have to trim it afterwards, that's totally fine too. But once you get it to fit how you would like it to, you can begin to sketch out and line work the colors you want on top. So here I'm just using the fine pen to add the details that were on the nose and on the forehead. Okay, so now I'm just going to color in my puppet. You can kind of just eyeball it because it's the forehead, meaning it won't be really seen. I mostly do foreheads for supports or if I'm adding spines on it, which in this case it's for spines and supports, and yeah. Okay, so once you finish that, you're going to put hot glue on one side of it, not the other, and you're going to kind of like line it up for the 3 different sections, which is like the snout, the bridge where it goes up, and then the flat part, so that it stays even. And then on the other side, you can just do the same. But I recommend doing it one side at a time so that it doesn't cause a problem, or sections at a time at least. And yeah, you can kind of see how it turned out there. And then this is how I add spines. I have 10 spines here, but since they're duplicates, there's 2 of each. I glue both of them together and I keep a small part unglued, and I use that part, bend it down, and attach it to the forehead, which you will see here. Okay, and there you have it, a dragon puppet, full tutorial. Anyways, it's okay if yours doesn't look like mine, and I hope you enjoyed.